Hey, what's up, teacups? Let's think. Hard. The amazing thing about being alive is that we can think. We can sit in one place while our mind takes a trip into outer space, or into our interpreted perspective of someone else, or into our own limitless potential futures. Or we can just think about what we're going to eat for lunch. Probably a toasted sandwich. With pickles.
Oh my God.
Okay, let's get stuck into some thought experiments to get our brain juices flowing. Let's start with the veil of ignorance thought experiment, also known as the original position. Both the terms original position and veil of ignorance were coined by John Rawls, but the idea and experiment was developed much earlier by William Vickrey and John Harsanyi. In the original position, individuals are tasked with selecting principles for the basic structure of society without any prior knowledge of their personal attributes or circumstances. This selection process occurs behind a veil of ignorance, which prevents them from knowing their ethnicity, social status, gender, and others' conceptions of a good life. The point is to encourage impartial and rational decision-making. Basically, you have to think of how you would structure a society, knowing you will be part of it, but not knowing anything about yourself individually or where you will be within that society. The purpose of the veil of ignorance is to ensure fairness and impartiality in the decision-making process. By not knowing their own position in a society or the advantages or disadvantages they might have, individuals are compelled to adopt a position of equality and impartiality. This ignorance is meant to eliminate biases and prevent individuals from favoring principles that would benefit them at the expense of others. Rawls argues that rational individuals in the original position, operating behind a veil of ignorance, would select a principle of justice that ensures the greatest benefit to the least advantaged members of society, and only allows social and economic inequalities if they benefit everyone, particularly the most vulnerable. Sound like any society we live in? No. This thought experiment highlights the importance of fairness and impartiality when determining the principles of justice in a society. It makes you wonder what societies would be like if they were all organized from the original position under the veil of ignorance. It forces people to see from different perspectives. It promotes empathy and community. Currently, people who make these decisions have a lot to lose and a lot to gain. Imagine if they didn't. Would they still make the same decisions? Probably not. What principles would you decide on from the original position? Comment down below. Don't be shy. Next up, a thought experiment that can make us question the importance of personal identity and authenticity. It's called the experience machine. The experience machine thought experiment was presented by philosopher Robert Nozick, and it goes as follows. Imagine that there exists a highly advanced machine that's able to provide you with a simulated reality that is indistinguishable from real life. When you are connected to the machine, you experience a life filled with all kinds of pleasures, happiness, and positive experiences. You can be constantly blissful, experience anything you want, and achieve all your goals.
Well, that sounds pretty good.
Or, you could choose not to plug yourself into the experience machine and simply continue your current life with all its ups and downs and uncertainties. Nozick argues that most people would be hesitant to plug themselves into the machine, and this hesitation is linked to factors that we value in life that go beyond pleasure. For example, knowing an experience is real, even if the experience is negative, may be considered more valuable than any simulated experience. Negative, neutral, and positive experiences all play a role in forming our identity and make us who we are through challenges and personal growth. Without them, we would be someone else. Our lives in reality have a more objective truth to them. They also connect us with the world outside of our own desires. There is also value in its unpredictability. Plugging ourselves into the experience machine would get rid of all of that. We may experience some hardships and struggles that shape us into a very capable, understanding, and experienced individual. If we instead spent that time plugged into a simulation that allowed us to be in constant pleasure, what would that turn us into? Anything special other than a spoiled, impatient hedonist? Probably not. This helps us question the idea that maximizing pleasure or happiness is the ultimate goal in life, and that authenticity and growth through meaningful experiences may lead to more fulfillment. It may also help us reduce our expectations of life in terms of pleasure and happiness, and helps us embrace adversity, knowing that it shapes us into who we are. Obviously, this is a personal choice. I'm sure some people would jump at the chance to plug themselves into the experience machine to enjoy the pleasure of ultimate pleasures for the rest of their life. And that's not necessarily the wrong choice. However, it's important to consider whether we can in fact feel happiness and pleasure perpetually in a genuine way. What is happiness without sadness? If we can't compare happiness to anything, how do we even know it's happening? Will the feeling of pleasure start to fade and the desires we imagine grow endlessly? These are major points to think about before deciding to plug ourselves in for the remainder of our life. What would you do? And why? Personally, I'm not sure I could do it, although it would be tempting. Okay, one more to fill up the teapot. Let's go with the Ship of Theseus thought experiment. It's also known as Theseus's paradox and was first recorded by the Greek philosopher Plutarch in the 1st century. This thought experiment questions the nature of identity and change over time. Okay, imagine a ship, perhaps called the Ship of Theseus. It's made of wooden planks. The ship is sailing through the seas, but over time, some of its wooden planks start to decay and fall apart. Each time a plank is too rotten to function as a decent plank, it's replaced by a new plank. Along the course of time and over the rolling seas, eventually, every single original plank has been replaced. Some may have even been replaced more than once. So this brings to question, is it still the same ship? On the one hand, if we base identity on the physical components of the ship, no, it's not the same ship. It's an entirely new one. On the other hand, if we consider identity to be based on the continuity of the ship's form and function, we may argue that it is the same ship, as the ship retains its overall structure, purpose, history, and name. This thought experiment challenges our idea of persistent identity, like when a band has no original members, like the band Yes, which was founded in 1968 by John Anderson, Peter Banks, Bill Bruford, Tony Kaye, and Chris Squire, none of which are currently in the band. Is the band still the same? Are they still Yes? Some might say no, while others will say yes. Let's go one step further and think about the teletransportation paradox. Imagine you step into a teleportation device that scans your entire body at the molecular level, recording all the information that constitutes your physical form. This information is then transmitted to another location, where a new body is constructed atom by atom to perfectly replicate your original body. Once the process is complete, the replica of you stands where it was constructed while the original body is destroyed. The question is this: are you still the same person? Even though it's an absolute replica, it didn't exist before, and the original you is destroyed, so maybe it's not. But on the other hand, from an external perspective, the replica perfectly matches your physical and mental characteristics. Additionally, your memories, thoughts, and experiences up until the moment of teleportation remain intact. This new replica sure thinks it's you and also thinks it was the previous you that was destroyed. Weird to think about, huh? If someone ever tells you they're not the same person they were before, consider that they may have been teleported at some point. My brain is tired. What other thought experiments do you know of? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for listening. And if you want to be a teacup, please subscribe. Love, love, love.